In this video we'll show you how we can machine the this knight chess piece using the rotary axis. Okay, so this is the file that we've opened, and what I will do is I'll just switch off the visibility on the stock just so that doesn't get in the way. The next thing I think is we need to think about tools. So if you go into milling, just go into the setup, make sure that the tool change position has a value in here for Z, and we can output the G-code file as having the same name as the part file with whatever extension we want here. So we've done that. Now let's define ourselves a new tool. We'll have a 4mm diameter slot cutter, but you can choose whichever sort of tool you want, and you set the flute length and the tool length there. Okay, if you want to see the tools, you expand the tree and then you can see the different tools here. Okay. So we've got the tool there, and so we can now just produce some machining on that. So if we're in the milling tab, we go to advanced machining, set the feeds and speeds to whatever we want them to be, go to the tool tab, choose the tool you want to use, and under surface paths we're looking at triangle mesh and we want to do roughing. So the first thing is the machining surfaces, i.e. the model that we want to machine. So here we can set either a machining feature or a fixture to be avoided. So we'll choose the machining surface. In this case it's the knight model, and then I press enter. If we want to, we can leave a finishing allowance on here. And then next we need to choose the type of machining we want. So we want to use adaptive. The constant depth step we'll say is 2.5mm, and the step over down here is 2mm. We can leave the rest of the things as they are. Under the link option here we can set the retracts. So we can set this to a smaller value maybe on this small part, and these are fairly self-explanatory what they are. Whenever you click into any of these dialog boxes you get a small diagram explaining what they mean. So that's done the links. Now we do roughing, and we want to define stock. So stock definition can either be a bounding box, a 2D containment, or a surface. So in our case we want a surface because we're going to use the stock file as the surfaces to control the roughing. So under stock surfaces we choose stock from here and press enter. We can make the stock bigger or smaller if we want to here. So that's set up all of the machining that we want. The last thing we need to do is to look at the heights of where we want it to machine. If we leave it in automatic, then it will try to machine all of that stock part, but we will need to change that. So we'll use user defined, and we can either set the stock by choosing it from the screen, or we can set up the value here. So if we start at 20mm and end up at 0 and click OK, so that's now calculating the surface. Okay, so it started off at 20mm above Z0 and finishing at Z0, which is where the center line of the part is created. So that's produced that adaptive roughing toolpath, and as you can see it's used the stock cylinder to control the amount of roughing. Okay, so now we need to swap this all around and do the underside. So what we can do first of all is, if we just click on this operation here and make it invisible, just so that it's easier to see. So what I need to do is I need to rotate that model around to 180 degrees. So to do that, the easiest way is to highlight the model here in the objects window, copy it, right click, and then paste it. So we've got two instances of that there. So this one here is the second one. Now I can change the name of this so that we know what we're looking at. So if I call it Night 180. Okay, so now we can take that model and rotate it round using the Geometry tab, Move Rotate. So we're using the option here which is YZ, so it's going about the Y axis and the Z axis, and we'll make that 180 degrees. So we've now got two models there. So for clarity, night, and then we'll just make that invisible. Okay, so that's moved the model round. We now need to issue a indexing command. So let's say we're going to index 180 degrees. We won't see anything happening on the screen here because that only happens when we simulate and post-process. So we've got the first operation there, an indexing command. So what we can do now is we can highlight the first operation, right click and copy, and then right click and paste. So we've now got two operations there, but the second one is working on the original model, so we just need to change that. So if we double click on that, then under surface paths all the other dimensions and everything remain the same, but under machining surfaces we can choose the Night 180. Okay, so here we make that visible. So that's the second part of that. So before we go into the simulator, we'll just save that away, and we'll call it Night 2 AM. And the other thing I'll do to make it easier when we're producing the simulation is if we save that stock shape, right click and say save solids and save that as an STL file, then we can just access that afterwards. So yeah, that's fine, just give it any, it doesn't really matter what name you give it. Okay, so now we go into milling, we go into the simulator, and we're going to import that stock file. And that's the one that we're going to use. We can define the sizes of the stock. We can set up a bar and set the sizes, but if the stock happens to be an odd shape like a casting or something else, then we can import that as the stock as well. Okay, so this is the simulator. Might look slightly different to your version, but across the top here you'll still find the run commands and so on. So this sets the simulation speed here, so it's simple video controls. Whilst it's simulating, we can use the mouse keys to rotate, zoom in, shift, and so on. Okay, so it's taken on the index command, and now this is the second toolpath. If we wanted to machine on all 4 faces, then we would need to produce 4 models, each one rotated round by 90 degrees. Okay, so that's produced that file. Now what we might want to do here is we might want to save that as an STL file and use it as the basis for the finishing operations, which can be as we've done here, just normal operations based on indexing the part, but we could also use it to use the rotary axis commands as well. So if you want to do that, we come over here, and under the measure thing here, we've got save stock, so we can save this as a stock file. So we'll just put that into a folder where I can find it, and we'll call it, just call it rough stock. Okay, so that's how we do that. To come out of there, we just exit that, and then we're back into here, where we could issue another indexing command to make it go back to the 0 position. We'll cover the other rotary commands in the next video.